Since September, we, the International Students Committee, have been working hard towards the 51st St. Gallen Symposium.
The past years have shown us that most of our problems can't be solved by one organization, one state, or one generation alone.
Therefore, we are proud to bring all of you to one table, engage in compelling debates, and meet new people.
Today would not have been possible without the collaboration with our partners, the over 500 students of our support group, and our team.
As part of the St. Gallen Symposium, we want to give us all the opportunity to set an example for collaborative advantage by engaging over the next few days with the person sitting next to you or via our app with people all over the world joining us virtually.
After 3 years where we hadn't had the chance to hold the symposium in person, we are now extremely excited to warmly welcome you back to the campus of our university.
Our whole team has been putting a lot of energy, love and passion into organizing this event.
The past couple of weeks have been challenging and enriching at the same time. Overcoming pushbacks as a team has welded us together and let us grow as individuals.
We spent a lot of time in meetings discussing all details about every single aspect of the symposium.
Like whether the umbrellas should be delivered at 9 or at 10.
I thought they should be delivered today.
Guys, wrap it up. We would like to start now.
Sorry, we still have so much more to tell you about our year.
If you want to hear more, don't hesitate to ask us. But for now, let's together create an unforgettable 51st St. Gallen Symposium.
Vivi, Lucas, Niklas, the stage is yours.
Yeah, more than 1,000 days have passed since the last physical St. Gallen Symposium. Yet the relevance of the 3 topics we discussed at the St. Gallen Symposium has remained. Freedom revisited, trust matters, collaborative advantage. It is striking that exactly the year in which we talked about freedom revisited, the world were stripped by their freedom by the pandemic. The year in which we had to rebalance individual liberty with responsibility of society. Trust in governments, scientists, media, but also family members turned out to be a key issue, facing forceful measurements to contain the spread of COVID-19. As soon as we thought we'd seen a light at the end of the tunnel, war returned to the European continent, brought by the Russian invasion into Ukraine. What followed? Meaningful acts of solidarity with the people of Ukraine, within Western alliances and the European family. But also a self-conscious questioning of Europe's past relation with and dependence on Russia, as well as the need to redefine interdependence going forward. In short, dialogues on the benefits, trade-offs and challenges that come with collaboration and more effective ways of working together. This seems to be particularly important in this moment of time. Now, as a member of Generation Z, I am aware how previous generations fought to have a seat at the table. Until not a long time ago, being a student dedicated to fighting climate change must have been a very difficult endeavor. The daunting future simply did not affect all generations. Subjective problems and fears did not receive the right attention. But I think now we are all aware that the problems which the younger generations of today face are not applicable to them alone, but to all of us. This brings forth a better intergenerational understanding. Because the one seemingly distant future has grown so close that it will now affect most living generations. We realize that we need to act in a more sustainable fashion in order to protect our generations, because only then we can start thinking about ensuring future generations. The obvious question posed here is, how can we achieve that? The main thesis of this year's St. Gallen Symposium is that collaboration will be a key ingredient in closing the gap. And yet, collaboration is a very complex word. How do we know that we are truly collaborating? The key is making decisions together and acting upon them together. During the pandemic and now during the war in Ukraine, we're clearly witnessing that we now have to take actions which have an immediate effect on immediate problems on a global scale. But things tend to become a bit more complicated as the time period increases between the measurements being taken and the positive effect can be observed. Or to put it differently, it makes it easier to take unpopular moves if you can profit from a positive outcome. Now, I think it would be too easy to say that this is the only reason why currently the 184 nations which pledged to keep the Paris Agreement are currently failing to do so, but it certainly plays a role. We believe that one key ingredient to overcome this problem is an open exchange within a community which not only combines crucial knowledge and diversity, but also possesses the necessary means to create, change, and achieve impact. The St. Gallen Symposium is a platform where these decisions and measurements can be discussed and actions can put into motion. So please use the following 2 days to apply the power of collaboration to any challenge that we face, independent of how long it takes until we can see the desired result. Let us make decisions together and act upon them together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucas, for your warm welcome, and I think you very well introduction of the topic of collaborative advantage and how we can continue this collaboration, especially in the next 2 days. Now, I would like to ask our President of our Board of Trustees to join us on stage, Peter Bose. So, Peter, thank you so much for being here today, and I have a few questions for you. So, as the President of the Board of Trustees, I, of course, know what you're doing and what your role is, but maybe you could describe it a bit further to the audience so that everybody knows what your role is and who's especially sitting on the board.
Yeah, thanks for that, and good morning, everybody. Let me start to tell you who is actually on the board, because we have a very interesting combination of leaders, skills, and representation from various areas in the board. So let me start with the academia side. So we have got Professor Bernhard Ehrenzeller, who is on the board. And thanks again, Bernhard, you are hosting us on the campus today again. And this has been the tradition for the last 51 versions of this symposium. So thank you very much, Bernhard. Then we have Professor Ulrike Landfester, who also is here at University of St. Gallen, a professor, and she obviously brings the academia side to our discussions as well. Then from a business perspective, we have Claudia Süßmuth-Dickerhoff. She serves on a few boards in the world, one of them, for example, Roche here in Switzerland. Then we have Bettina Würth. She represents, obviously, the Würth family in the Würth company. So she's chairing there what we call in German, or I guess I translated into English here, so the advisory group for the family company. And then we have Christoph Loos. He is the CEO of Hilti. And he brings one very unique perspective to the board as well, because he has been, like many of our students today here, he has been working for 1 year to organize one of the symposiums. Then we have got Christian Mummenthaler, he is the CEO of Swiss Re. Then we have Thomas Bubel, he is the CEO of AXA, sitting in Paris. So this is the board which we have. And what we do is, and you know this very well, we really like to help, advise, challenge, but also open doors for our students, so that we can have every year a successful symposium here in St. Gallen. So when a year ago we started to think about what's the subject, the theme for this year's symposium is, that's where we have a small group of the trustee board as well, which is called the Brain Trust, and they have started then to work with many other institutions in the world to find out what really drives the world at this stage and what the world really needs. So that's one way of contributing. The other one is also having a meeting with the organizing committee and exchanging views. We also meet with the entire students group just to have an open dialogue as well. So we see our role much more as a role to help and advise rather than to run the show ourselves. So for that, we have got more than 30 students working every year very hard. I should not forget the leadership and the team in the foundation itself, which is run by our CEO, Beat Ulrich. You will see him later on stage as well. And we have an extremely motivated team there as well. And they also help on a day-to-day basis the students to get this organized here. They also look after the money we have in the foundation. As you can imagine, that also plays a role when you have such an event at one stage. So that's the way I would describe what we do.
Thank you so much, Peter, for your descriptions. I really can support what you said with the whole team is very grateful for the guidance and the support of the Board of Trustees. It's amazing to work together with you, to get to know you, and yeah, being able to count on you. So you've been engaging yourself for various years for the St. Gallen Symposium, and hence the idea of cross-generational dialogue. What has been motivating you or fascinating you through all these years?
It's actually what you represent. So if I go back when I was first approached, not for the trustee board, but actually to turn up here, that was, I don't know, 20 years ago, when I was actually CFO of ABB back then, not even at Shell. And they came and presented like you have done and tried to win me over to come to St. Gallen and speak. And I just found this extremely fascinating, because then I thought back, when I was 20 years old, would I have had the courage to go in and really speak with these CEOs and try to convince them? Because you know, when you speak to CEOs, or you want to speak to them, you have to pass the personal assistant, you have to pass the chief of staff, you have to pass all of them. And you sit in front of the office all the time and wait. So, and I just found this absolutely fascinating, and that's why I'm here. This cross-generational dialogue, which we have every year, I always look forward to it. And with our mission and vision which we have, to help to nurture and develop future leaders by being together in St. Gallen and discussing across generations the most important issues and have an open dialogue, is something which really fascinates me. And the more important thing which I take away normally is also have a lot of food for thought here. I take that away and I build that into my leadership of whatever I do over the next 1, 2, or 3 years. So the learning effect also for us as the current leaders is enormously. And I urge you, when you go home on Friday, take a few notes, what you will apply and what you will actually do when you are on Monday again in the office or in front of a class, etc., etc. So this is really what is fascinating for me. And then yesterday they twisted my arm at one stage 9 years ago and said, you need to join the foundation board and be the chairman. The twisting of the arm was not a heavy exercise, actually. I said yes, and I enjoy it. So.
Thank you so much for those words. I think I can really confirm that all of us are professional in calling ourselves through the switchboards and getting by all the staff and getting into the CEO office. So that's definitely something that we do quite often. Now for the next day, we have an amazing program awaiting us all. I hope all of you have got a little program in your hand that you got at the check-in desk. So maybe the question to you, Peter, what's your personal highlight for the next few days? What are you looking forward to most?
I think the world is in a difficult stage at the moment. We have had the pandemic, we have the terrible war in the Ukraine. The economic situation is at the tipping point. High interest rates, currencies go all over the place. I think we have very crucial issues. That's where collaboration will be extremely important. And I look forward to all of these sessions which will bring all these issues and elements together, and that we can have the dialogue and listen to each other, which is very important, because I have the feeling today in the world the listening skills are actually not very well developed anymore. And I think that's something we can do here in St. Gallen. We can even celebrate the listening and then have the discussions. And hopefully we take actions as well, because we have had enough over the last 10, 20 years regarding listening and not doing anything. So I think that's a key one. Now, what I'm looking for is we have some key sessions to come. So we will discuss about the role of NATO, because this is also about collaboration at the end. We will also have a session on neutrality, which in this country is extremely important. So we will have our president here from Switzerland. We will have representations from Austria, also from Croatia. Thank you very much for coming today. And therefore we will debate these subjects. We will have also looking at what we have done during the pandemic and analyzing supply chains. And thank you, Manuel Barroso, for being here as well today. So we will look at all these critical issues, and I look forward to those discussions. But the one thing which I really most look forward to is, and I don't want to say that we have 2 days of coffee breaks, but I think being outside then and have a coffee break and see the various generations together discussing things after they have listened for an hour, that's also what I will look forward to. And we have got enough food for thoughts in the discussions over the next 2 days.
Well, yeah, the coffee breaks are always a very intense task also from organizing. I think there's as many people involved organizing all the breaks as there are involved in organizing the program. So it's definitely also on the very high prioritizing list. Thank you so much, Peter.
Can I say one thing more? Do you allow me for 1 minute? Because I would like to also encourage you and all the other students by telling you just a short story. And it goes back to the Board of Trustees. So we also had to say goodbye to 2 members this year. Ralf Schmitzträger, he can't be here today, who has served us for many years at the Board of Trustees. So thank you for that, Ralf. But we also have Benedikt Hensch, and he sits actually here. And now comes the story. I encourage all of you to follow his example. He was part of the 3rd ISC, the 3rd symposium, and you can now calculate, we are in number 51 now, so you go back. And then he served us in all these years with his contribution, his knowledge, etc. So I'm not sure if I'm still around in 50 years, but I would encourage all of you to be around still and help and support the symposium over the next 50 years after you have delivered today and tomorrow an excellent symposium. And thanks already for all the work you and your colleagues and teams have done. Thanks to Benedikt for your 50 years of service. So.
Well, also from my side, thank you very much, Benedikt, and also Ralf, who's not here. I think the whole team also wants to give a great thank you to them, and thank you to you, Peter, for taking the time to talk to me, to talk to us. now I would like to ask our conference hosts on stage, Catherine Cleaver-Ashbrook and Niklas Zeller. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the 51st edition of the St. Gallen Symposium. You just heard from a few students that make this happen, but it is 450. And I suggest to all of you in this room that you use your coffee breaks wisely and get to know most of those people who have done everything to bring you into this room, because this is the first time in 3 years that this symposium has taken place in person. And so where usually our students serve 1 year to put the symposium on, Niklas and the people you just saw on stage have in some cases been serving for 3 full years. And this is the first time in this way that this conference not only brings together all of us, which I don't know how you feel, but this is exciting to me to have all of you in this room together after such a long time, but to also be broadcasting more than 20 sessions online to our partners around the world, frankly. And of course, our students stand on the shoulders of those who've come before them. So this is the biggest historic alumni gathering of the St. Gallen Symposium. So if you're a student or if you're an alumni, this is your applause.
Yeah, we are looking forward leading you for the next 2 days because we would like to link those important conversations we will have here from this stage, the breakouts, and maybe the side events we will have. And we would like to explore this year's topic, collaborative advantage.
It's my great pleasure to introduce to you now this young man who will share the stage with me for the next 2 days, Niklas Zeller. As you've already seen, he is part of the organizing committee. He's the head, one of the heads of the International Student Committee. He's a second-year student in economics here. And again, he has been dedicated to this conference effectively from the first day that he stepped on this campus for 2 years. So thank you, Niklas.
Yeah, and I'd like to introduce Catherine Cleaver-Ashbrook. She's a former director and CEO of the German Council on Foreign Relations and non-resident fellow at the Global Public Policy Institute in Berlin.
Ladies and gentlemen, we heard from Lukas in his opening remarks that the forum, the symposium, the foundation always choose one topic every year to dedicate their thoughts to funnel the discussions, to challenge how we think about issues, to be uncomfortable in the questioning of the ideas that are percolating in our time. And just last year, we talked about trust and how trust matters, how it's the foundation for our democracies, for our interactions. And that was the conclusion of those 2 days of discussions. If we're not with one another in constant conversation, entertaining even the difficult questions that might be wedge issues that drive us apart, then we have little basis on which to build what we will need going forward. And in this year, we have termed that as collaborative advantage.
Yeah, in this very spirit, we have chosen the topic collaborative advantage as a theme because we'd like to explore those dilemmas we have, as well as new, maybe more impactful forms of collaboration, maybe actions to address those topics we have and those challenges we have.
The stakes are high to leverage collaboration. For those of you in the room who heard from Shashi Tharoor yesterday, Indian member of the Lok Sabha, very prolific writer on international affairs, he spelled out the crisis of multilateralism in which we find ourselves. And so while we agree in principle that fighting pandemic disease, fighting climate change, pushing back against aggression in the heart of Europe and conflict in the midst of our societies, from populism to misunderstandings on critical social issues, collaboration, is it always an endemic good? Are there collaborations which, in fact, are nefarious for a human society? We're going to ask a number of difficult questions over the coming days, how we define collaboration, how we must rethink who collaborates when and with whom. And of course, undergirding this entire theme is how do we get intergenerational equity right so that for all of us who are of middle age in this room, we can continue to rest our hopes and ambitions on this next generation, because I will tell you from my conversation with these people, they are ambitious, they are ready, and they want to take on these questions. So it is our duty, our mutual duty, to help them to achieve.
So we have two main guiding questions for the next 2 days, and we would like to ask a lot of diverse interests and values. How should we strike a balance between independence and interdependence in addressing our most pressing issues? And what are those skills, values, and frameworks needed to work together more effectively?
And we're going to do that right after our closing of our opening piece by looking at economic interdependence. We used to think that it was an endemic value, it was good if countries collaborated with one another, because then war would be prevented. And now we see that that is not, in fact, the case. So how do we get economic interdependence right? How do we elevate global prosperity? And then how do we see things through progressively after a global pandemic and in the midst of this war?
And next, we will explore the power of investors and shareholders to drive those shifts towards more sustainable business. So we would like to introduce Mr. Grace Fu afterwards. He was a speaker at a Singapore reception in January already. She held a speech yesterday, and we were interested to get her opinion on those topics.
And as Peter Fossa mentioned, we wouldn't be in the heart of European neutrality in Switzerland if we didn't, quote unquote, attack that bull by the horns. Is neutrality still a contemporary concept for Switzerland, for Austria? Look at Finland, look at Sweden. Very different choices. We'll explore that with Ignacio Cassis and a minister, Karin Edstadler from Austria, roughly midday.
And afterwards, we have some interesting insight sessions. We would like to have them to have more detailed discussions with our speakers regarding the topics we have. In the afternoon, there's going to be the Max Schmidheiny session. It's going to be about the topic, democracy, free media, and the challenge of new authoritarianism, which will take place at Square with our guest, Maria Ressa. So stay tuned for it.
Nobel Peace Prize winning journalist. I'm particularly glad to know that Maria is going to be on campus with us. When I was but a young pup journalist, I used to package produce for her at CNN International, and look where she's gone in her fight for democracy, for free speech, and for equality. So I'm thrilled for that. That is my personal highlight. But this wouldn't be the St. Gallen Symposium if it weren't for the intergenerational focus. So we will cap, of course, as is the tradition at St. Gallen, our conversations here today with the winners of the essay competition. And for those of you who are frequent visitors to St. Gallen, you know full well that the interesting insights that our winners have brought to the topics at hand will leave you with a little percolation for tomorrow. So watch out for that, and my good colleague from CNN, Riz Khan.
Then we will end the day with an evening program. I don't want to tell you any details about it, so yeah.
Surprise. Well, if the technical abilities allow us to do that, we want to take now a moment to introduce you to our conference co-chair, Lord Brian Griffiths. And I see that he is with us, and that gives me a unique thrill because after these many years of pandemic and these many Zoom conferences, it's always still a gamble at the end whether the line is going to work, but here he is. Lord Brian, what a pleasure to see you. Thank you for being with us. Nicholas will introduce you.
Yeah, dear Mr. Lord Brian, I would like to just say a few words about your connection to the St. Gallen Symposium. Even though maybe the year, like Peter Fossa mentioned before, changed every year, there's one constant we have for many decades. And Lord Brian has been a good friend of the symposium for quite a long time. I think I wasn't born already when he has been here the first time. But thank you, Lord Brian, for having those speeches and for giving your words at the opening ceremony here for us.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. Can I say what a very great pleasure it is to make some opening remarks. And I'm just sorry not to be with you in person. I love the symposium. It's international, it's interdisciplinary, and it's intergenerational, as has been mentioned already a number of times. The students play a huge role in organizing everything. And I think, this is my 23rd year, I think they've taken more ownership this year than ever before, which is terrific. Normally, if I was starting in the past, I'd say something humorous, and the Swiss have tended to like British humor. But today, I'm afraid, with the unspeakable barbarism of Russia invading the Ukraine and the face of evil, which we see on news broadcasts all the time, the mood, I think, is very somber. And we should make no mistake that the West, as we know it, is under attack. Our heritage is under attack. Our ideals are under attack. Our way of life is under attack. Things like private property rights, the rule of law, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, free and competitive markets, limited government subsidiarity. This whole approach is under attack because there are, from China and Russia and Belarus, they also believe in collaborative advantage. The program that's been organized is really fantastic, and the organizers deserve great credit. Much of the program, it seems to me, is about how to fix it, whether it's international relations, NATO, the EU, the UN, or whether it's a sector like energy or food or transportation, whether it's pandemics or climate change or public goods, inflation, the economic situation, which is really very serious, shortages. Most of the sessions are about how do we fix it. I would just like to pose to you one question, which I think you should ask, if you will, which underlies the whole program. And that is, what is the object of our achieving being successful in collaborative advantage? Are we doing it simply to increase prosperity? Are we doing it for power? Are we doing it for peace? Whether it's a Kantian peace, a perpetual peace, or whether it's Thomas Hobbes and Kissinger and realism. And I think this goes to the heart of St. Gallen, because St. Gallen was started in response to the riots of 1968, in Paris, in London, and then throughout the world, concerned really with human freedom. And the way of life we have in the West starts with each human being having infinite value. And there's a priority, therefore, in our diversity, but also in our divinity. And we have a capacity not only to reason, to be entrepreneurs, but we have a capacity for close friendship, for showing love to each other. And I think that this whole way of life which underlies this is something which underlies this program. And to me, therefore, freedom is at the very heart of it. And I'd ask you the question, as you discuss the nuts and bolts, never forget what the ultimate objective really is. And I'd also say in conclusion that if you're a student here, and I take very much Peter Voser's point, being your age in such an audience with distinguished people, but get involved. Make sure you ask a question. Make sure you put your hand up. Make sure you step forward and so on. Be prepared to challenge someone. And at the end of the day, always remember that there should be an element of fun as well. And make sure you have some fun and join in the social life of the symposium. So I wish you all a terrific 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Brian. Lifting, elevating the human condition and doing it with empathy. We will make that the goal, and it is a useful reminder for all of us on this stage and in this room, and to ask the difficult questions. And I credit you again for underscoring that point. We need to do that now. Is the time. Without it, we will not be able to adapt and do exactly as you say. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. I want to now bring to the stage a face that's familiar to all of you, at least those of you who've been closely following the work of the symposium, which is our CEO, Beat Ulrich.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Niklas. It is my role here, first of all, to thank you all for staying involved with the St. Gallen Symposium, for being back here in St. Gallen, and for supporting our initiative even more in the next 50 years. And it's also my role now to announce an inaugurating statement by the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, to emphasize the importance of this initiative and to emphasize the importance of the next 2 days. Justin Trudeau is leading the Liberal Party in Canada and serves as Prime Minister since 2015. And he's living and implementing our vision, Lead with the Next Generation in mind. Justin Trudeau has established a youth council, a group of young Canadians that advise the government and the Prime Minister on issues of importance to them. So that's his way to listen to the next generation and get engaged with the next generation. I'm looking forward now to the words of Prime Minister Trudeau. He sent us this message yesterday evening at 10 p.m. So we're glad to have his words now here for you on stage. Thank you so much, and looking forward to 2 very inspiring days. Thank you.
Hello everyone, bonjour à tous. It's great to join you for the annual St. Gallen Symposium. I'd like to start off by thanking all the students who put together this inspiring event. Ensemble, vous faites la promotion d'un leadership responsable, vous démontrez le pouvoir de l'action collective et vous vous attaquez à certains des plus grands problèmes auxquels le monde est confronté. Let's be clear. This event is taking place at a moment when democracy is being challenged around the world. Look no further than Ukraine. Putin's unprovoked and horrendous war threatens the international order and is a clear violation of international law. But Putin underestimated the world. Countries are taking a stand against this invasion, and Canada is working alongside friends and partners to respond and to support the people of Ukraine. My friends, there has never been a more important time for multilateralism. We're facing big, complex problems that we cannot solve on our own. But in this moment, organizations like NATO and the EU are more united than ever when it comes to addressing global challenges and pulling people together. And Canada is doing its part too. Pour lutter contre les changements climatiques, on a mis un prix sur la pollution et on encourage les autres à le faire aussi. De plus, on a fait face à la pandémie en soutenant les efforts afin d'atteindre l'équité mondiale pour ce qui est de l'accès aux vaccins. Et on dirige des initiatives visant à lutter contre la propagation de la haine et de la désinformation en ligne. By bringing us together today, you're proving that solutions come from hard work and open dialogue, regardless of where you're from, how old you are, or what your background is. This year's theme, Collaborative Advantage, is a reminder for leaders that we need to do more than just talk, and we need to do more than just listen. We need to work together, learn from our past, and find concrete solutions that also consider the impact on future generations. That's what responsible leadership is. Ce symposium est une occasion de réaliser cet objectif. Mais pour réussir, il faut que des gens comme vous continuent de faire entendre leur voix, de demander toujours plus et de faire pression pour que les choses changent vraiment à travers le monde. Je suis réellement impressionné par le travail que vous faites et je regrette de ne pas pouvoir être avec vous aujourd'hui. Mais j'ai bien hâte d'entendre parler de tout le progrès que vous allez réaliser dans les prochains jours et bien sûr dans les prochaines années. Thank you for having me. I know you'll have a wonderful symposium.
Well, even if you can't hear me, I'll still say, merci, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. Thank you for those words. I think the reminder to learn from history is the one point that we have yet to bring up on this stage, and I think it is vital, and we'll discuss that in the coming days, certainly at lunch with the Swiss president.